Hello everyone, thank you for coming or for coming back. Today I'm going to show you how to make lemon meringue pie. Lemon meringue is one of my favorite types of pies, and it is especially great in the summer when lemons just feel like nice and light and fresh after being out in the hot sun all day. So all the ingredients and the measurements are listed down below and we can start baking. So we are starting with the pastry. We are going to be making a sweet crust pastry instead of a classic flaky pie pastry. I just like the way that it goes with the pie a little bit better, so the method is going to be a little bit different. So we are going to start in a large bowl into which we are going to add our nice soft butter, as well as our sugar, our salt, and a splash of vanilla. Then we're going to go ahead and beat this together on high speed until it is nice and light and fluffy. You might have to scrape down the sides of the bowl a couple of times, but then just keep on beating until you have a nice light fluffy texture. Once you have achieved this, you can go ahead and add in your egg and beat it once again until it is nicely combined. And then finally you are going to add your flour and beat it once more until it is a nice cohesive dough. Now you're not going to beat it quite all the way, you are going to leave it when it is almost completely mixed, and you are going to finish mixing it by hand so that we don't make this dough too tough. So go ahead and use your hands to pat it and mold it into a nice dough, and then we are ready to roll it out. So this is a rather soft dough, so we are going to have to flour both the tabletop you are working on as well as the top of the dough before rolling it out. You want to roll this until it is just bigger than your pie plate so that it will nicely fit the bottom and the sides of the pie plate. Here I'm using an 8-inch pie plate, so I made my nice big dough circle just a little bit bigger than 9 inches. Once your dough is nicely rolled out, you can go ahead and pick it up and put it onto your pie plate, making sure to center it so that you have an equal amount of overhang over all the edges of the pie plate. Now we are ready to cut off the excess, and instead of cutting right at the edge of the plate, we're going to cut it about 1/2 inch after the overhang so that we can have a little bit of extra so that we can make our decorative edge to our pie. So after cutting all the way around and you have just 1/2 inch extra around your whole pie, you're going to go ahead and fold that extra underneath so that you have a nice little doubled up edge all around the end of your pie. Once you've done this, we can go ahead and add in our little crimp. So to do this, you're just going to take the doubled over part of the pastry that is above the pie plate, and you're going to put 1 finger on the inside of the pie and 2 on the outside and just sort of squeeze to make a little point or a triangle shape, and you're going to do that all around the outside of the pie so that you end up with a nice sort of decorative crimping that looks a little bit like a crown. Once your pastry is all crimped, you're going to go ahead and put it in the fridge to chill for 15 to 20 minutes before we bake it. I like to chill this after I have rolled it out instead of before I've rolled it out, because I find that when it is nice and thin, it will chill a little bit faster, and it also just helps it to hold its shape in the shape that you've put it in instead of in a square, because that wouldn't make sense after you have to roll it out again. So once your pie is all nicely chilled, we can go ahead and do the last couple of things before we put it into the oven. So first we are going to dock our pastry, and this just means that you're going to take a fork or a knife or anything pointy, and you're going to put a bunch of nice little holes in the bottom and on the sides of the pie. This will keep any big bubbles from forming in our pie and giving us an irregular pie shape. The other thing that we are going to do is we are going to weigh down our pie shell. So for this, we are going to make a circle out of parchment. To do this, all you have to do is take a square that is big enough to cover your pie, and you are going to fold it up into a small triangle as if you were making paper snowflakes, and then you're going to cut off the end to turn it into a circle of parchment as big as it can possibly be within your square. At this point, I like to crumple it up to make it easier to fold up and around the edges of my pie shell, and then we're going to put it in and we are going to fill it with pie weights. Now, if you have real pie weights, then you can go ahead and use that here, but otherwise you can just use something like dried beans or dried rice. Anything that you have in your cupboard should work. Now this is going to go into the oven at 350 degrees for about 15 minutes. And then after 15 minutes, you can take it out and you can remove your pie weights. Now the pie weights have been stopping the bottom of the pie from cooking just a little bit, so we are going to want to put it back into the oven for another 15 to 20 minutes or until the bottom of the pie feels dry and is light brown. Once your shell is completely cooked, we can take it out and set it aside to cool just a little bit while we work on our lemon meringue filling. So for the filling in a pot, we are going to combine our sugar, cornstarch, and flour, and then go ahead and give this a nice whisk together, or else they will clump when you are slowly adding in your cold water. Now you're going to put this mixture onto heat at a medium-high heat, and you're going to cook and stir it until it comes up to heat and thickens. This will happen pretty slowly, but then it'll sort of thicken all at once. After it thickens, we're going to add our egg yolks. Now we want to temper these egg yolks, but we're just going to do it in sort of a lazy way here. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my whisk and make sure there's a little glob of this cornstarch water mixture caught up in my whisk. And then I'm going to add it into the egg yolks and give it a quick stir before adding all my yolks back to the pot. And then we're going to cook this for another minute or so just to make sure that our yolks are fully cooked, and then we will take it off the heat. Now off heat, we are going to add our butter and our lemon zest, and we are also going to slowly whisk in our lemon juice. Now that this is ready, we can add it to our cooked pie crust, and we are ready to put it back into the oven. Now with most recipes, you would add your meringue to your pie before putting it back into the oven, but I'm not going to do this here because I'm going to be making an Italian meringue. Now this means that I don't have to cook it again because the syrup that we are making for the Italian meringue will cook our egg whites, so they will be safe to eat raw, so they don't have to be cooked again. If you were making a French meringue, which is just egg whites and sugar, then you would have to cook it in the oven again, but I'm not going to do this because Italian meringue is a little bit more stable. So we're just going to put our pie back in without the meringue to cook for 15 minutes just to make sure that it will set up nicely. After 15 minutes, you can take it out and just leave it aside to cool to about room temperature before starting on your meringue. Now for the meringue, like I said, we are making an Italian meringue, so we are going to start by making our sugar syrup. So in a pot, we're going to combine our sugar and our water. Make sure that the water is poured all the way around the pot so that all of our sugar is dampened and we don't have any dry sugar, because it would cause a couple problems. And then we're just going to put that on the heat and bring it up to 116 degrees Celsius. Now when your sugar water is almost at 116, you're going to add your egg whites to a large bowl and you're going to start whipping them on high speed. This can be done in a stand mixer, and it is a little bit safer to do in a stand mixer. Just be careful when you're doing this because it is hot syrup that you will be working with. So once your syrup has reached 116 degrees Celsius, you're going to slowly stream it into your bowl of whipping egg whites, making sure not to hit the whip, or else it will get flung around and hit the side of the bowl and possibly come out of the bowl, so again, be very careful. But you're going to slowly add your sugar while beating until all of your sugar is added, and then you're going to keep beating your egg whites until they reach nice, stiff, glossy peaks, and the bowl can be turned upside down without anything falling out. At this point, our meringue is ready and it can be added to our pie. Now you can just spoon this on, but I want to be fancy, so I'm going to be using a piping bag with a medium star tip. Now the type of tip really doesn't matter, it's just going to change the design that you have, but again, you can also just use a spoon or a knife or anything to add this to your pie. So I'm just going to be using my piping bag, and I'm going to make a sort of fun spiky pattern on my pie. I generally like to add a layer down first just to make sure that I've covered the whole pie before I work on my actual design. Now this is the real fun part, and that is torching your meringue. If you don't have a blowtorch, then I would say that you should put this in the oven the first time, but if you do, then you're just going to go ahead and take your blowtorch and you're going to torch all around your meringue until it is nice and pretty. Now this part really is just about accentuating your piping and making them pop wherever you want it to pop. Once you are happy with your torching job, you can go ahead and put your pie in the fridge to cool the rest of the way to make sure that your filling is super duper set before you cut into your pie, or else your filling might just squish out and it'll go everywhere and it'll be very disappointing. So make sure it is fully chilled before you cut your pie. Once your pie is chilled, you can go ahead and take out a slice, and it should be beautiful. You'll get these really nice layers of meringue and filling and crust, and it is a beautiful pie. This is, again, so tasty. I love lemon and lemon meringue in the summertime because the citrus is nice and light versus the hot summer. So I hope you made this, I hope you enjoy, and I will see you next time.